I want to welcome you all to our Master of Music and Media Scoring and Production Information Session degree program. A little bit of a mouthful tonight. We are going to cover a lot of information. Ultimately, hope this will help you determine if our program is going to be a good fit for you. My name is Elisa Milan. I am one of the enrollment advisors here at the University of Miami, the online division. And if you should decide to apply to the Master of Music, Media Scoring, and Production program, you will be able to speak to me or to my counterpart, who is Omar Perez, and we will help you throughout the process to ensure your application is complete before submission. We have Andrea Jimenez with us tonight as well. She is the director of our online program and my co-host for the evening. Before Andrea takes over, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. This information session will be about 45 minutes in length. There will be a recording available for you. So if you have to leave early or if you're coming in late, that will be sent to you by email. So rest assured you will be able to see this. Or if you just want to rewatch it and see if there's anything that you may have missed or want to review again, you can also use it for that. We will have myself in the Q&A feature, which you will be able to answer. It's typically in the bottom right side. So please submit any questions that you may have, and we will be able to answer them as they're coming in. And then Andrea, well, first let's go over the program information. So this degree program is 10 courses total. It's about 20 months to complete, and each course is 7 weeks. So you will take 7 weeks. You'll have about a week break or so in between, and then you will continue on to the next 7 weeks. There is no GRE required or GMAT, but you will have one final project, which we'll be discussing throughout this session as well. And now, Andrea, just handing it over to you.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody. Thank you for being here with us this evening or wherever you are. If you're in a different time zone, it may be earlier, but thank you for being with us. I am really happy to dive into this conversation with our program director, Camilo, and with one of our incredible instructors, Diego Clavijo. So without further ado, Camilo, can you please introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Hello, everybody. I am Camilo Rodriguez, and I am currently the graduate program director. There we go, nailed it.
Beautiful.
For the Frost Media Scoring and Production Program. And I am mainly an audio engineer and producer. I've worked in film, I've worked in, mixing and post-production a bit too, but my strength is audio engineering and music production. That's
Thank you,
my
Camilo.
thing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Diego, please, if you can unmute and tell the audience a bit about yourself and your role here with us at Frost Online and on campus.
Hi, I'm Diego Clavijo. I'm an instructor. I'm a sound engineer, producer, musician, musical director. I've been working in live industry, also in productions and some film work. I mainly work in the audio engineering on the arrangement side. I think this program especially shows us a lot of these tools that you can use in different aspects of your life.
Thank you, Diego. Appreciate you. So without further ado, so Camilo, can we get into the curriculum a bit? And then Diego, I'm going to pull you in so you can go over some of the courses that you have that you're an instructor in. And then we will absolutely dive into the final project, which is a big one, but it is incredible. And it is a professional final portfolio, if you will. You'll leave here at the end of it with it. And we just graduated our first 4 students from in our spring cohort online, and seeing all their virtual defenses was absolutely incredible. But anyway, we'll get into that soon. But Camilo, can you get into the curriculum, why we built it the way that we did, and what's required, all the electives and emphasis, and then I'll bring in Diego. Unmute.
I'm a great engineer, I promise. So
that's awesome.
So I'm gonna cover it first on like some of what are the classes and what are the credits and all the stuff that you need to do, and then we'll talk a little bit about like the through lines of why it's built the way it's built.
Perfect.
All right, so the program itself is a 30 credit program, and the way it works is we have 9 credits that are required, One of them being the thesis, 3 credits, another one being a business class, entrepreneurship for musicians, and another one being the the business, the thesis.
Those are the 2 required. You're right.
Yeah.
And
And
then all the
then
emphasis.
yeah, correct. And then we have 5 total classes or 15 credits that you take from MSP. So we have 2 big categories of kinds of classes. We
Mhm.
kind of separate them into either more leaning towards music production or more leaning towards media scoring. Right? So what ends up happening is you don't really need to do one or the other because we do consider them to be fairly overlapping. And we want you to build yourself to kind of figure out what are the things that you need for your career. And then we can help you, strengthen the tools that would be required for that. So once we have those 15 credits, you eventually end up doing what we were saying earlier with Andrea, the thesis, which is a capstone project. And it usually involves basically since the very beginning of your career or your degree. You start right off the bat and you start working towards it so that by the time that you are out, you have put all of your heart and soul into this. And you walk out of here with an absolutely phenomenal portfolio. That's like end game. Like the second you start, we want you to come out with a portfolio. So the classes themselves, like we were saying, are split between media scoring and music production. And what's great about them is that we try to make them as student led as possible, so that all of the learning happens together. We teach each other, we work together, we collaborate, we are doing everything through each other, with each other, learning from each other. And I think that's a big, big element of everything that we do, because we do think there is a ton of variety and a ton of different approaches to making music. And the more people that you meet that are great at it, the better. And that's why we really want all of our students to get to know each other, to understand how everybody's brains works. So we focus a lot on back and forth with students. And one of the things we tell students all the time, if we're doing our job properly, you're learning as much from each other than from the classes themselves, which is something I think is really, really important for, especially for online learning, where everybody is, kind of doing it together at your own time, but together.
Camilo, thank you for that. Diego, let's talk a bit about the courses that you teach. We really get into the studio and recording techniques course, mixing and mastering course. Then, of course, the mentorship and the instructorship that you provide to for our final projects, which is very, very, it's great to have your perspective here about that. And then, as you know, because you help us out so much, you help with coordinate even one of our media scoring courses whenever on campus when we have our live orchestras and live instrument sessions. Then you help with those Zoom sessions and ensuring that things work nicely for our online students for their assignment in media scoring too, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to let you explain a bit more. Talk to us about the studio recording and studio recording course, the mixing and mastering course, and then anything in terms of the other course since you're here with us. So please go ahead.
Well, for me, it was a very interesting program. When I took it, I took this program before becoming a professor, and I really enjoyed the way this was taught. And I think we're still applying this same thing that Camilo was mentioning, is leaning towards the build of your career for every single person. There's like a lot of I had different students with a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different goals, and the way this can apply, it's so broad. So for example, on the production classes, we focus a lot on the recording techniques, on the side of like how things get recorded, how to engineer a session, but also leans towards into the production side, where you look at the arrangements, you look at the music part of it. And I think that's something that for a lot of people, that they don't want to be an engineer, don't want to be like just one thing, this program is like incredible, because you can learn a little bit of different things, but you can also dig deeper on some stuff. So in the mixing class, for example, you can look at how to process tracks from starting from the bottom to understand gain structure to like mastering a song. And the good thing about this is that you're not only working on like projects for the school, but it's also working on projects that you're going to be able to showcase whenever you graduate. And I think that's the most important part, because once you go out of school, you want to have a good portfolio that you can showcase to other people. Talking about showcasing your portfolio, the film scoring class that Andrea was mentioning, we have a recording session with a whole orchestra in the studio. So that's like a very interesting thing, that in that class specifically, you're focused more on the arrangement side, but being part of this kind of recording session is the way most recording sessions are happening in the world today. Like most people is working from X place to a different place that's miles away, and remotely having these sessions is something that's happening all the time at all levels. So I think having this experience is like something that a lot of people would wish to have before getting into the real world, because it's things that are happening on the real world.
And I thank you for that, Diego, because it leads us straight into what I'm even learning in being in supporting the program in the way that I do, which is definitely more administrative and programmatic, but also and student success oriented with our student success advocate Rayana, who's incredible. But when it comes to what the students are doing from like the academic, the work products, and what they're delivering in order to meet the goals to earn the degree from our program, something I'm learning more and more, and Camilo graciously teaching me about, is just how the industry, what and media scoring, and what is like a composer, a producer, like, and how those lines are truly blurred now. And in terms of like the skill sets that a person should, we're hoping, always go into the industry with, so that there's not one opportunity that comes their way and they would just have to be like, well, no, sorry, I actually don't know that, or I didn't know enough, or I didn't learn enough in the program that I was in. Camilo, can you speak more to that in terms of, I use the word blurred lines, but it's more of like a blend, right? And ensure, and how important it's important for us to have students leave our program with all the skills possible and the proficiencies, so that they can defend themselves in either area.
Yeah,
So if you can
exactly.
expand on that.
So the way that I see it is, there are so many skills in music and just so many things that can be under one single umbrella that it's kind of hard to kind of segregate everything that you're going to use cleanly, right? So what ends up happening with, for example, media scoring and music production is the tool usage is pretty big on the overlap. There's a lot of similar tools that get used. If you are a composer, you need to know how to record, even if it is just your guitar or a vocal or a violin at home, and understand why it sounds good or why it doesn't. And if
Mhm.
you're doing music production, you still need a good arrangement, because a bad arrangement doesn't matter how good the music is. A bad arrangement will not sound good and will be essentially impossible to mix. So a lot of overlap exists between both skills. And what comes down to it is, the approach of the actual composer or producer. Like the outcome is different from somebody that, maybe recording drums and bass and guitar versus somebody that's recording, French horns, strings, and woodwinds. But a lot of the process is the same. And now that you need to know all of it, there's
Mhm.
even more overlap because, 50 years ago, an engineer didn't need to know anything about arranging. Now they do, right? So what
Mhm.
happens is back in the day, engineers could open up the compressor and, solder it together and make it. And that's a different kind of engineering than the one that we're talking about here. Like
Right.
when it comes to like music production, we're more on the creative side. That's where we overlap like crazy with media scoring because it is all of the same tools. It's just that the output is a little bit different. So that's how we see it, and I'm really grateful that Diego brought it up because I was recently on a project that actually blends both. It was um, it was a production that had a bunch of orchestral stuff on it. So I had to
Mm.
work on both of those things because it was also two picture. So I had to produce a song two picture with orchestra and with a beat. So it really is using both of those things. More and more, I've been seeing social media posts about composers that know how to produce or producers that know how to understand the orchestra. So it
Wow.
is not only the tools themselves, but I am seeing it actively sought out in the industry. So not only is it on the one side being creative and not necessarily teaching you something that you don't need, like how to solder a compressor, but teaching you the tools that are going to be directly applicable to all of these kind of new things that are coming up recently, right? And I'm honestly kind of happy to see them because it's really, really cool to see all these incredibly talented people that aren't, blocked off by, oh, media composer, oh, only producer. No, you'll have like Nine Inch Nails making a score for a movie, something like that, you know?
Right, right, right. That's an awesome perspective, Camilo, and thank you for sharing more about that. Diego, and just because of everything that you're doing here with us and how, I mean, you're living proof of this jumping back and forth, like just being able to be that person to tell our instructor for our media scoring 2 course, yeah, I can help and I'll do the coordination part and I'll be the one actually like composing the music for, like, you just being able to step into that is in real time is really what we're talking about here. Had you not been able to experience that, gain that skill set, really practice it and hone it in when you were here with us in the program, albeit on campus, but still you got the experience. The curriculum is the same whether it's online or on campus. You got to experience it and you just jumped in, right? I really do feel like you got, most of you that I meet that graduate from this program are able to do both, or at least defend yourself in both areas. Can you
Also,
speak
it's
that,
important to
please?
note maybe that it's not only focused on this, because I've seen cases of students that they are not planning on being a producer or being a film scorer, and they still took these classes because, as Camilo
Right.
was saying, we have a lot of overlaps with other like branches of these world. Like I had
Yeah.
a student who is a really good playback engineer. Basically, he plays tracks on live shows and he does arrangements.
Yeah.
But there's not any school in the world, as far as I know, that's teaching this specific skill. But you get this specific skill through learning arrangement and learning production. And how you learn that? Through
Yeah.
film scoring, through composing, through. So those overlaps, I think it's good to know that probably it's, if you say like, oh, I don't want to be a composer, because when I joined this I was like, yeah, I kind of like composing for film, but like I'm more like a producer. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I learned about the skills that you get when you learn about music, like film scoring and like arrangements for like an orchestra and stuff like that, it's like, wow, I was missing a lot to learn to
Wow.
become the producer I want to be, or something like that. And I think those skills are something that are catch my eye when I was taking the classes. And I think it's something that sometimes people don't see when they starting something till they till they need it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and having that humility, right? I think it definitely has to be part of someone's core value system, and remaining curious and saying that I really love this, but let me just remain open and curious because something may come up where this may attract me. And just saying no right now, what if in the future that can be, just because I said no, it's that opportunity I didn't get. So can you speak a little bit to that, Diego? Because that's interesting. It's not interesting, but I just love how you expounded on that. And now being an instructor and seeing it come from student to instructor mode and the differences. And then Camilo, I want your take on this too. What is that like? With you came in like, oh, I don't really think I'm going to need that. So I already know I'm going to focus on that. But then when you actually were like, I think maybe in your brain, let me give this a chance. You went into it and you're like, oh, I still got quite a bit to learn. And then and then by doing it, it just makes you that much more stronger in terms of already like the foundation that you have. You're able to just build off of it. So can you speak to like that kind of, because that takes a kind of person and a kind of ability to just stay humble with it. What did that look like for you when you're like, I'm going to do this? And then when you got in it, you're like, oh, I have a gap. I need to work on this. And let this make me much stronger. How did you go
I,
about that process?
I think the best way to explain it is because when you don't know something, you think you don't like that thing or you don't need that thing. Once you
Mm,
start learning, the more you learn, the more you know things you need. It's like,
mm,
oh, I think this is easy. I can do this. Okay, you start doing it, and then you realize there's like a whole world happening there.
mm,
Of course, it's gonna take years to get to some points, but like to have the leads to find out those things could be interesting to you and could help you on your specific goals on your career. I think that was one thing that I noticed through the program. And I think that the the biggest thing on the program is like when you get to, I've been mentor for a lot of theses in
Yeah.
this program, and this final project, I think it's so cool that you can actually choose a specific thing that you're interested on to work. I've seen like people focus on production or focus on film scoring, but they end up doing like a specific project for something that they really care about. And I think that's having the time and the like having someone that's leading you to find out what's that thing that you're very interested on. I think that was like one of the things that I noticed from the program that works really well. And I think I can probably say that we're teaching this in a way that helps the student realize what their goals are.
And leaving them open to even discovering it, right? That sounds like I thank you for that perspective, Diego. Camilo, did you have anything? I saw you come off mute. I'd love to hear just your thoughts on.
Yeah, no, what Diego was saying is absolutely 100% true.
Mhm.
And one thing that I have noticed is that there's a lot of learning that happens when there's interdisciplinary learning, when you're learning
Mm,
something that maybe is not necessarily related, right? And you think it's not related, and you're like, whatever, let me just not think about that. But it turns out to be like a satellite skill, quote unquote.
mm,
And what that means is, I'll give you an example, actually, that might be better. Is we have a lot of film composers that come in and they don't even consider the fact that sound design exists, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to make music, I'm going to write music, I'm going to make the music. But then it turns out sound design is this whole beast that is, honestly, it's just as much making music as a film score. Sound design is such an important part of film that it really does, to me, in my experience, make or break a movie just as much as the music would, right? And then we'll have students that are like, "Ah, I don't want to take that. I don't know anything about that."
mm,
But then they take it as an elective, and because it's a satellite skill, it's not a skill that they're going to use at all when they're composing, but they will interact with people from the audio team. They will interact with people that are doing the sound design for the film they're working on. And then they'll understand things like, oh, I see this explosion. It'll probably have a lot of sound, which probably means I shouldn't put music over the explosion. Right? And it's like these small, silly decisions that come from all that interdisciplinary connection. So
yeah.
the way that I've explained it before, and I saw this explained, I think it was like in a conference years ago, it's like you have what they call the T shape or the inverted T, where you're like a baseline point in a whole bunch of skills, but then you have like an expertise. So if you graphed out or you mapped out all of your skills, it would look like, okay, a bunch of relatively beefy like skills and then one just super pointed. And that's where you're the expert of, right? So if it was like in music, let's say I know how to edit, I know how to record, I know how to produce, I know how to play guitar, and those are like secondary skills, but I'm a mixer. So that's the one that's like super high, right? So most of my work will be like that, but I can communicate with arrangers. I can tell them, hey, the mix is not working because this note is a flat third away from this one and it's causing a problem with the horn, right? And I can say that as a mixer, for example, which is not mixing, but it makes the mix better. So that interdisciplinary connection and those satellite skills, being able to communicate with others cleanly is super, super valuable. And sometimes only focusing on like media scoring, media scoring, media scoring is not necessarily the best approach. So there is a lot of value on the electives you pick because they really make you you, like uniquely you, I should say.
That's and thank you for that perspective. And I know that we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I mean, I love talking to all the programs, but MSP is definitely very, very special when it comes to all the stuff that we're doing here and every true advantage I think that our students are getting. I did want to ask you both, did we actually, we just got a Q&A. Hello, Alexander Lassa. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. Does scoring and production usually occur simultaneously? The scoring and production usually occur simultaneously.
I mean, kind of. They're fairly similar. For example, let's say you have a film and you're, lining up beats to frames. You're creating a tempo map, right? And then you use MIDI to write out the notes, which can then be played back by a virtual instrument. You're making a beat, right? So, like I was saying earlier, a lot of the skills overlap, and then what changes is just the end, like with the actual result. Because I can make a beat and it could sound like a musical production, or I can do all of the same skills with the MIDI and the sequencer and all of the things that are lined up, and make a score. So it's not exactly, I don't want to say it's both, but you could potentially be doing either or with the same skill sets. And it'll be fuzzy and sometimes, like the one I was saying earlier, that there was this project that I had to do two picture, but it was a song. So it's kind
Yeah.
of both,
Yeah.
So it's that, but that's not super common, right? So
Camilo,
it can be
yeah.
either or.
Camilo and Diego, I definitely did. I just want to get a quick couple minutes here, but I wanted to know just the perspective of what that final projects process looks like. Camilo, if you can explain just the mentorship that comes with it. They're connecting with you. We do that, truly try to do it at the midpoint of their career with us, so that they can like really understand like what their project can look like while they can continue to build it as they go, but how we're trying to prepare them sooner rather than later so that when they get to that last semester, they're truly investing their time in building it, which is where our incredible mentors, Diego, being one of them, come in. So I just love your perspective from that program director lens, but also being part of so many committees, Camilo, to share a little bit about that, what that looks
Yeah,
like, what they can
100%.
expect. And then Diego, I'll ask you about the mentorship and what they can expect as well.
So us being in music, the proof is in the pudding, right? So when you start, we will encourage you right off the bat, start thinking about what it's going to look like, what your final project is going to be. And the reason we want you to think about it since the very beginning is because you can start planning your electives with things that will help you get to where you want to get with your
Yeah.
project. So let's say if you're planning to do a lot of film stuff, yeah, we'll do orchestration, we'll do media scoring, we'll do anything that makes sense for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that end, once you're like maybe halfway there, we'll schedule a call and we'll talk about your project. We'll be like, okay, what are you planning to do? Is it, a recording, a film? Is it an app? We've had a whole bunch of different things. Is it a
Mm-hmm.
portfolio? Right?
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, the proof is in the pudding. We really do worry about the portfolio. We want it to be as good as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
So we'll start like when we have that call about 50% of the way there, okay, do you need resources? Do you need an orchestra? Let's figure out what you can do to get it to make it happen. Do you need a stage? Do you need a recording studio? Do you need whatever? And then we're going to figure out what you need so that that project sounds and looks and feels as good as it can possibly be. And the reason we want that project to be good is because that's the first thing everybody will hear when you submit to jobs, when you are applying for different
Yeah.
places, all of those things. Everybody, first thing they're going to look at, if they like your resume or your CV, they're going to click on a link and listen to your music. And that has to be absolutely phenomenal. So that's why we worry so much on the thesis. So once you're finally enrolled in the thesis, ideally you already have a plan, you already figured out what resources you're going to use. If you need film, you already got the camera, all of those things. And then you sit down with your mentor, for example, Diego here, and you will talk to them weekly on two broad topics. One of them being all the paperwork that you need to do to make sure everything is right and proper, but also more importantly, what steps are being taken to make sure this project is the best it can be? Am I noticing any issues? Are there any potential things that might come up? Do I need to fix anything in particular? And that's where the mentors come in. So Diego, if you want to talk about how your experience has been with students,
Yeah,
beginning
yeah.
to end through the process.
Well, you covered most of it. That it's basically we have a weekly call where we talk about what's your project, how does it look like, is it feasible, how is this going to work for you after you graduate. That's something I
That's a
focus a
big one.
lot.
Thank you.
And it's like
Right.
a lot of the students, they say like, okay, I want to record an EP. Okay, but what's the goal of this EP? For example, I want to be an artist, I want to be a producer artist, I want to be like, there's different ways you can, branches you can take.
Yeah.
There's people, as I was saying, there was like a project about like playback engineering and doing the arrangements for this. Okay, so if you want to be a playback engineer, let's say, you need to showcase that you have the skills needed to be a playback engineer. If you want to be a composer, probably you're going to start assisting another composer, so you need to showcase your skills to this composer,
Mhm.
how you're going to do this through the music you've done, through the productions you've done. So that's how you build your portfolio. And we meet weekly to see what are the things that you at least need to cover on your project. And I follow like step by step most of the projects. I try to be there for any questions, and like kind of lead the experience of like finding out this path.
Yes. And we did get two questions now that, and we'll answer them. And sorry guys, we usually go over time, but no, we got three questions. Okay. So let's start with Z really quick. Camilo, this may be for you. It's about the portfolio when applying for the program. So what makes a portfolio competitive when applying for this program? For example, I minored in music production, composition, and technology, and multiple pieces of sheet music, sound designs, and songs produced on my DAW. Should I prioritize a certain format of work or include as much as possible? Great question. We can
Great
give
question.
him a little bit.
Yeah, so I would say my first answer, most important answer to this is I want you to showcase yourself, right?
Yeah.
Don't try to, put like film stuff if that's not your thing,
Mm,
or don't try to do like sound design if you haven't really done it before. You don't have to apply with everything. I want you to apply with you, right? What do you do? If you're doing film, great, apply with film. If you're doing both, great, apply with both. But I want you to be honest and I want you to be direct with what you know and what you want to improve. And for what we look for in the applications is mostly the proper use of the tools, like a
mm,
good starting foundation, like you have experience working on a movie, lining up some tempo, maybe applying some MIDI score, if you were like on media scoring. If you were on the music production side, we're going to hear, okay, is your audio editing close that it doesn't, break the song? Is
mm,
your tuning appropriate? Are your mixes mixing is a little bit trickier, but we will listen to like the big important elements, like are the levels appropriate? Maybe the mix is not perfect, but if the levels are close, then we're happy with something like that. So we do look at, experience having done this before, even if
mm,
it's just you doing it for fun, but we do want to see that you have done this before and that you have learned from it. So one of the things that we do ask in your application is for you to talk about your project. So maybe a little write-up of like what did you do and what decisions you took and
correct.
creatively why you took them. That's actually very, very important for us because it can help us kind of gauge like what direction you're feeling and how like we get to know you a little bit better and it makes the application process easier, in my opinion, at least.
Camilo,
Um,
same person, Z, sorry, because they had a follow-up. Does the committee evaluate non-BM applicants? I'm
A
assuming like
hundred percent.
bachelor's of
Yes,
music.
yes.
Yeah, we do. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have absolutely no issues with you not having
A
a
BM.
degree. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we look at 100% is that you have a good portfolio that you're proud of and you can show us that you did it yourself. And that's the most important thing. We recently had a student that had what was it? An accounting degree.
Mm,
And he was phenomenal producer. Absolutely phenomenal producer.
yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, we're not just restricting it. It just show us what
Yeah,
you got. And the portfolio is
ex-
the opportunity to do that. And of
exactly.
course, all their written elements as well as the personal statement, because that's a separate written element.
Correct.
Awesome. And then
Thank
is
you, Andrea.
information, of course, thank you. I can access on deadlines to enroll in the spring for this program. Z, absolutely. So Elisa, our incredible admissions manager here with Omar Perez as well. You can get in touch with them, Elisa, if we can make sure that we get Z in touch so they know, excuse me, what the deadlines are to enroll in the spring application cycle. And then we had a last. So Z, thank you for your question. And thank you, Alexander, for this last question. Please define playback engineer. Okay, so what are the responsibilities of a playback engineer? Good
Well,
question.
basically, it's, let's say, a producer for live shows. It would be an easy way to explain it, but basically someone that takes care of the tracks, any recording instruments that are gonna be played live, and he's responsible of arranging most of the times, sometimes just playing those tracks. It's basically a producer for live shows. It would be an
Yeah.
easy answer.
So just to kind of cover a little bit more on that, some of the skills that you would run into, for example, let's say they have a loop section, and it's your job to keep an eye out until they break out of the vamp into section B, and then you trigger the new section with it's usually Ableton. And you'll be able to like jump around, play back different sections. Maybe the guitarist had an issue, and you now mute their mic and turn up the guitar track so nobody can tell that the guitarist had a hiccup. You're basically live producing the event, and it's surprisingly deep, more complicated than you would think. It's a very much a live music career.
Appreciate you both for being here and for your questions. Everyone, thank you. Thank you so much. Z, you're very welcome. They wrote, thank you all so much. Looking forward to keeping in touch. Very excited to apply. We're looking forward to anyone who may want to dive into what we got going on here at Frost through the University of Miami. So thank you, everybody. Camilo, Diego, thank you for being here with us. Both incredible. I can't speak enough about what students say about you and the mentorship and where they are now because, you know, each of you impacted their lives. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Elisa, I am sending it off to you to cue us out here. Thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I want to go over a few last minute items as far as the resources and connectivity, just to go over a few. I know one of the biggest questions that we get from our students is there a possibility for somebody to help them with their resume or for job leads? And we do have the Topo Career Center. It is available to our online students as well as our students on campus. They do have an office on campus. So if you are in the area, you can go ahead and visit them. They can assist with your resume. They can assist with any leads that could be for your career. But of course, they cannot guarantee anything, but they will set you up as best as they can. We also have our online library. We have disability services, and so much more. So just to go over, I know that Camilo went over a bit of what is needed when you're applying. So we will need your unofficial transcripts initially for us to be able to make a decision and review your application. But you will also need to order the official transcripts, which you can typically do through Parchment. It is preferable through Parchment than through mail, but if mail is the only way, then you will also have the information to send it there. You will need 2 letters of recommendation. They cannot be from a family member or a friend. It needs to be a professional letter of recommendation. You will also need your resume with the most updated information, your schooling, the jobs you've had, especially the ones that align with this degree as well. And then you'll have your personal statement, which is telling us about you, why you're looking to do this degree, your background, if it is in music, if it's not, but, just a background about you and what your goals are. What are your intentions that, you have with this degree program, to move forward and better yourself. Then we also have obviously you have to complete the online application and the portfolio. The portfolio is a submission that you need to just to showcase what you have, your skills, your passion, just through the portfolio submission. We have the final admissions deadline that is coming up on Monday, July 27th. Please make sure that you are submitting your application with time, especially that you are completing a portfolio in case there's any changes that need to be made. Your letters of recommendation, if we need, we may need a third one, or we just need you to update, the one that is on file. So please make sure that you're giving yourself more than enough time to be able to submit a complete application. You can speak with with myself or Omar, and we will be more than happy to assist you. I know I saw Z in the chat, which I have reached out to already. So just please, I inserted the link in the chat. Just go ahead, you can click the link to start your application process. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us this evening.